Now that you know how to send your form data to a PHP file, we can now perform something called PHP validation. So right now we've done JavaScript validation, which is all fine and good for regular users. But one of our big problems as a web developer are hackers or malicious users, where the problem with JavaScript is that a hacker can simply just open up the inspector right here, and then they can go in and find the JavaScript right here and just delete it. And then they'll be able to type in whatever they want, and the JavaScript won't be able to catch it because the hacker, deleted the JavaScript. So they can do something called code injection, where, let me demonstrate, where inside the form, if I type something like script, open script, some JavaScript code, close script, right? If I run this, the code runs because the PHP file, the form handling file, it will just straight up just print the HTML code. It doesn't recognize it as malicious code. So that's why we have to use PHP validation to make sure that hackers aren't misusing the website. So to reiterate, JavaScript is simpler to use for validation, but it's mainly to protect against regular users, while PHP validation is more complicated and it's used for protection against hackers or malicious users. So what we want to do is something called sanitization. So we want to sanitize this input. So to do that, let's first create a function that we'll call sanitize. Okay. So right here, I'll be going through some rather complicated programming. So just follow along as best you can, and I'll explain it line by line. But you probably won't understand a lot of what I'm going to be doing. So first off, the function is going to be taking in a set of inputs, and also let's call them fields. I'll explain that in a sec. So the fields, so this is for a general sanitize, but okay, we don't need the fields. We can define the fields inside the function if we have one to. So yeah, let's do that. So fields, basically what we're trying to do is we want to associate, so let's say first name, arrow, string. All right. So this is called a map. So it's like a specialized form of an array where we have a key and a value, and it's just like a dict, except in PHP it's called a map. So what we're doing is we want to go through each one of these and say if it's these are all strings. String. Gender, male, female. All right, we probably don't need this fields part. This is just let's just assume that all these inputs are strings. That'll make this tutorial easier. So in here, we're going to be doing a for loop. $I is equal to 0. $I is less than inputs length. $I plus plus. So we're just going to be looping through the inputs. And then we want, so most of these will be strings except for two. There'll be the email and the date of birth. So for this, we're gonna create two if statements. So if inputs, it's inputs square bracket $I. There you go. Okay, so if no wait, we don't have to do that. We just need to say that if $I is the, let's see here. So 0th input, first, second, third. If I is third, then we want to do, okay. So right here we need a big function that you use for validation, and it's called the we don't need the array version, we just need a filter variable. And so with this we'll be taking the dollar inputs $I, comma, and so this filter variable right here, that's a built-in function for PHP, and basically what it does is that it's able to sanitize, that is like it makes sure that you can't do code injection, and it will check if the code is the correct, and if it isn't, it will convert it. It will do a bunch of things essentially. So the thing with the filter array is that it takes the value and then it takes a filter. So there are multiple filters that are defined, and since the third object right here is the email, we're defining the filter as filter underscore sanitize email. So the reason why this is in all caps is that the second value right here is mapped to a array of constants. It's called an enumerator, but basically is that the filter variable has a number of different filters, and the filters are constants, so they can't be arranged. And in general coding practice, constants are always in full caps. So that's why these are in full caps right here. So we want to do another else if, and that's for the date of birth right here. So the date of birth is the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th item. So if I is equal to 6, then we want to validate if the date is correct. So the filter variable doesn't have a validation for checking dates, but there's another one called it's called check date. So in here we need to do another if, and we can check date inputs I. And so check date, what it does is that it gives a true or false if a date is valid or not. So so if the date is valid, then we'll do a filter variable of that and filter sanitize, and we'll read it as a string because why not. All right. And also, once we've sanitized that input, we can continue and continue. What do we do if the check date fails? I mean, if it does fail, we'll have to like give a warning that so if it fails, you usually want to give it an error code, but in this case, let's say that if the date fails, we'll just send them back to the contact page. So if you want to force the user to go to a page, you use the header function right here, and we say header location http localhost. So if the check date fails, you'll be sent back to the create new account. So we checked if the date and the email and the date of birth and the email are correct. Now we can check that. We can run the filter variable, filter sanitize string. So all the other ones, the names, passwords, even the gender, these are all strings. So we want to check each one of these as a string, even the phone number, because what math are you going to do for a phone number? So we can just simply read it as a string right here. So now when you click the submit button and you go to the form handling, we want to run sanitize for our $_post. This is missing an I. So I'll probably be getting a lot of errors. It shouldn't be inputs length, it should be count inputs. And 15. Oh, that's right. The post doesn't take numbers. Alright, so you'll have to loop another way. Alright, so to do the looping, we'll have to use another type of loop, and this is the for each loop. So the for each loop only works in associative arrays, I'm pretty sure. So for inputs, for each inputs as $I arrow $val. Alright. So if alright, so basically, okay, so I've forgotten that the post doesn't take the numbers. You have to use the name value association. So for that, we can't use a for loop. We have to use this for each loop. So for each, we're reading inputs, and then this I is like it's the index. In fact, let's name it. It's name and value. So inputs as name and value. So if name is equal to, and what was the name we gave for email? It's just email, right? So if name is email, then we do the value. So let's grab value and we change all this input of i's into $value. And then this $I is $name is equal to what do we call it? DOB? Yeah, DOB. And check date. Alright, did the check date incorrectly. Okay, so let's omit the check date, because the check date doesn't take it as one string, it takes it as three strings: month, day, and year. So okay, then let's do that. Okay, so first I'm going to comment out the sanitize code. Oh yeah, this too. And down here, we want to do a var dump of the date. So dob. Oh, we haven't given a date. Okay. Give it a date. Nope. Refresh the page. Give it a date and submit. And it's still giving us a no string. What? Oh. That's the telephone number. DOB is before that date. Okay. Gender. Okay, I understand my mistake. The gender, this should be DOB. And this should be TEL. Here we go. That's refresh. So now it should be working. Here we go. Okay, so it gives us the date in this format, 22/12/15. So for this, we want to create 3 variables. Year, okay, year, oops, month, and day, right? And oh, that's right. We want one more called date. So it's the date is equal to explode post dob. All right. So to explain this, the explode function right here, I don't know why it's called explode, but essentially what it does is it searches for this separator and then separates it into an array. So right here we have these 4 numbers, then the dash, 2 numbers, dash, 2 numbers. So with the explode, it will convert it into an array, a 3 array with the year, day, and month. So we actually don't need the year, day, month. We just need the date. So now if we do the var dump for dollar date, and we refresh right here, we have an array with 22, 12, and 15. So we've separated from 1 string into 3 strings. So now if we bring back the validation code, the sanitize code, I mean, we want to do the explode check date, right? So if the name is DOB, we explode the date into an array. Then we do a check date, dollar date of 0, comma, and then let's copy this code, move to, and it should be 2, 1, because, oh, hold on, it separates into year, month, day, and the check date actually takes it as month, day, year. So the month is the value 2, is the value 1. So there should be 1, there should be 2, and there should be 0. Here we go. So we've taken the string, used the explode to change it into array, and then we're able to pass the array as multiple values, multiple inputs into the check date. So now the check date function should be working. So if we refresh, there we go, we no longer have any errors. So we've successfully sanitized this. So if we put the script back in here, ooh, the script still runs because I didn't run the sanitize function. I sanitize $_post. Refresh. Okay. Undefined key 1 on line 9. Okay, we have to convert these to integers, so I think, yeah. No, wait. It's like this. Oh, there you go. Okay, so when we click submit, we're coming back to the create new account page. That's because we have this header that's sending us back right here because we haven't defined a date. So if we define a date and we click submit, there we go. Now the code works and it should be sanitizing. So we have a date and then we have our code right here, and if we click submit, the code still runs, which it should not. That is because while we did run the filter, we need to actually save it as a variable and return it. So we'll define a variable right here and we call it output. Let's define output as output is an array. Then we do, every time we do a filter, we do array push output, comma, the filtered variable right here. So array push, that's we're adding this filtered variable into our output array. So we can copy this and paste this into every place. So again, to go over what went wrong is that although we did call the sanitize function, it didn't actually save anything. It sanitized all the text and then we just threw away the sanitized text by accident when we're actually so to avoid that, we created this array right here, output, and then for each, we're pushing each value into the array right here. So the array that push, it's we're taking the filtered variable and we're putting it into the output array, and then at the end of the loop right here, we return the output, and then we can do var input. Let's go with values is equal to sanitized post. So now instead of post first name, we can do $values 0, and then email we do $values 3. So here we go. Okay, so going back here, refresh. So if a hacker, malicious user adds code where anywhere in the form to mess with us or to hack it, now with the sanitization, the alert doesn't actually work. All the code has been removed, so now it's read as just a text. So now we've done sanitization, we've done PHP validation right here.